Okay, let's talk about today's business matters. Microsoft has issued an alert about active attacks on its server software. The affected SharePoint servers are used by businesses and government agencies to share files. Microsoft recommends customers disconnect their servers from the internet until they can apply new security updates. The company said cloud-based SharePoint Online in Microsoft 365 was not affected. Meanwhile, CISA said Sunday it is aware of the breach. We now know the date when Southwest Airlines will end its open seating policy. Assigned seats for passengers will start January 27th. Southwest first announced the change last summer, going to assigned seating for the first time in the low-fare airline's history. The ability to get certain seats will depend on the fare. Purchase options will include standard, preferred, and extra legroom seats. Tickets for assigned seats can be purchased beginning next week. Social media platform X is calling a French investigation politically motivated and says it will not be cooperating. X shared the message on its global government affairs account. Earlier this month, Paris prosecutors stepped up a probe into the platform over allegations of algorithmic bias and fraudulent data extraction. This means police can conduct searches, wiretaps, and surveillance against CEO Elon Musk and other executives. If they do not comply, a judge could issue an arrest warrant. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is advocating for an institutional review of the Federal Reserve. Bessent cited what he called fear-mongering over tariffs. Despite the lack of impact on inflation, he's expected to give a keynote speech at the central bank this evening, kicking off a regulatory conference. Trump has repeatedly urged Powell to deliver interest rate cuts, but Powell has warned a premature cut would worsen inflation and ultimately raise borrowing costs. Trump is also taking aim at a $2.5 billion renovation at the Fed's headquarters, calling it wasteful. Powell defended the project, saying it includes major safety upgrades and the removal of hazardous materials. With the EV battery industry running out of juice, battery makers are changing course toward the AI renovation, or revolution, that is. Some companies are now slowing EV battery production and ramping up energy storage manufacturing and challenging China's dominance in the process. Here's more.
Automakers and battery companies bet big on electric vehicles, building multi-billion-dollar EV battery plants across the U.S. But forecasts turned out to be too optimistic. With underwhelming demand, these companies are seeing EV batteries in the rearview mirror and energy storage on the horizon. The shift is on track with a spike in U.S. electricity demand from AI data centers, manufacturing, and broader electrification. Some battery makers are now making batteries for energy storage systems. They're used by utilities, wind and solar power developers, and data centers. They can offset power outages and manage the extra demand on the power grid. Tesla is one company making the shift. It generates billions from sales of batteries for energy storage. Revenue for that segment, which includes solar panels, grew nearly 70% last year to $4 billion. This helped offset an even larger dip in revenue from lower EV-related sales. The push toward energy storage will also challenge China, which dominates the market. One researcher notes that even with increased tariffs, China is still often the lowest cost option for energy storage batteries.
And researchers have discovered a trend that helps explain the resilience of the U.S. economy despite high inflation and tariff uncertainty. J.P. Morgan Chase Institute examined nearly 5 million household accounts. It found that more Americans are shifting their money from checking and saving accounts into investment account or investment income. In fact, total cash reserves are increasing when factoring in new accounts going into brokerage accounts, money market funds, and certificates of deposit. And you're probably paying more for those burgers on your grill. Beef prices are rising to record levels. The Agriculture Department says beef is selling for $9.26 per pound. That's a nearly 9% price hike since January. Analysts say several factors are to blame, including smaller cattle herd sizes, drought conditions, and more expensive feed. There's also more imported beef in the market. The American Farm Bureau Federation also says cattle ranching in general isn't as profitable as it was previously, and some ranchers have since given up. The CEO of Tyson Foods told listeners on a recent earnings call, These have been the most challenging market conditions ever for the beef industry. But the American Farm Bureau Federation says demand for beef remains strong in many U.S. households. President Trump enjoys sports, and on Sunday, he urged two professional sports teams that recently changed their names to change them back. President Trump says the NFL's Washington Commanders should go back to being called the Washington Redskins, and baseball's Cleveland Guardians should change their name back to the Cleveland Indians. Both teams changed their names a few years ago because their monikers were considered offensive to Native Americans. The president wrote on social media that times have changed, and he said Native Americans support his position. Rare earth imports increased last month from the world's largest producer of rare earth magnets. In April, China added several rare earth items to its export restriction list in response to U.S. tariffs. This upset the global supply chain. The U.S. saw a sharp fall in shipments due to the lengthy time required to acquire export licenses. Shortages forced some automakers outside of China to halt partial production, but once the Sino-U.S. trade deal was reached, rare earth magnet exports to the U.S. soared. In June, shipments were up 660% from May, although they were still down 38% from the year before. As part of the agreement, chipmaker NVIDIA has been cleared to resume sales of its H20 AI chips to China. Congressman John Mulinar, chairman of the House Select Committee on China, has raised concerns about the ban reversal. He said it would advance the AI capabilities of the Chinese regime's military and assist Chinese companies in capturing the global AI market. Alaska Airlines has resumed operations after issuing a temporary ground stop Sunday night due to an IT outage. All Alaska Airlines flights and those of regional subsidiary Horizon Air were temporarily halted. The ground stop left some passengers stranded on planes for hours. Alaska Airlines warned of delays and advised travelers to check their flight status before heading to the airport. The airline didn't give any details on what caused the IT outage. This is the airline's second fleet grounding request for its mainline and Horizon flights in just over a year. There was a system upgrade issue in April 2024. Shares of Verizon jumped this morning after the wireless carrier raised the lower end of its annual profit forecast. The company says that's due to strong demand for its premium plans and the Trump administration's new tax law. Take a look.
The telecom giant said it's benefiting from favorable tax reform that allows companies to immediately write off the full cost of certain new equipment, boosting free cash flow. Verizon also beat Wall Street estimates for second quarter sales and profit. Verizon has launched promotions and broadband wireless bundles to retain users as competition intensifies from AT&T and T-Mobile, as well as broadband providers Comcast and Charter. But Verizon posted a surprise drop of 9,000 monthly bill-paying wireless subscribers in the second quarter, reeling from user churn after price hikes in January. Analysts polled by FactSet were expecting an increase of 13,000 subscribers. To drive growth, Verizon and its rivals have been bulking up on fiber optic assets that can tap growing consumer data use. The company in May won approval from the FCC to acquire fiber optic internet provider Frontier after Verizon agreed to end its diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. The focus on internet services helped it post 293,000 broadband net additions in the second quarter. Verizon's earnings also helped lift shares of rivals AT&T and T-Mobile in Monday morning trading.
Has checkout on Amazon felt heavier on your bank account? Well, the e-commerce giant has quietly raised prices on hundreds of low-cost products. This is based on a Wall Street Journal report. Nearly 2,500 items were analyzed since President Trump announced sweeping tariffs. The analysis found that Amazon marked up about 1,200 of its cheapest household goods. This applies to everything from kitchen staples to deodorant and cough medicine. The average increase was 5%. At the same time, retail rival Walmart lowered prices on the same items by nearly 2%. The Amazon price hikes came despite the company pledging to hold prices. In response to the report, Amazon said this does not represent the company's overall prices. World War II veteran and social media star Jake Larson has died. His granddaughter announced the news on social media Saturday. Papa Jake, as he was known, was 102 years old. His family says he died peacefully last Thursday. Larson shared stories about his life and military service on social media. About 1 million people followed him. Larson was just 15 years old when he enlisted in the National Guard. He said he lied about his age so he could join. He was among the servicemen who took part in D-Day. The acting head of Immigration and Customs Enforcement says his agency is ramping up enforcement not just on illegal immigrants, but also on the American companies that hire them, speaking on CBS Face the Nation.
Not only are we focused on those individuals that are working here illegally, we're focused on these American companies that are actually exploiting these laborers, these people that came here for a better life, either forced labor, child trafficking. A lot of these worksite cases just isn't a victimless crime of someone here working illegally. And that's why we're going there with these criminal warrants to focus on these American businesses that are trying to make an extra dollar on the backs of these people that came here for a better life.
Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons made those comments yesterday. Meanwhile, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass yesterday criticized the Trump administration for allowing ICE agents to wear masks during operations. Bass says it undermines accountability and sends the wrong message to local law enforcement. The LA mayor argued that LAPD officers identify themselves openly and don't use masks. ICE has defended the practice, saying it protects agents and their families from retaliation. A holiday toy preview in New York City showcased the latest new and upcoming toys from the biggest brands. Both newcomers and old favorites with new features were there. This year's Toy Insider Sweet event was held at Chelsea Piers in Manhattan. Take a look.
We're at Chelsea Piers today at Pier 60 at the Toy Insider's Sweet event. This is the premier toy and play preview party. I like to think about this as Christmas in July. Sweet welcomes more than 65 different toy brands, and they are here showing off hundreds of the hottest holiday toys.
Everyone loves their Tamagotchi. We've been around for almost 30 years. We're just introducing a new Tamagotchi called Tamagotchi Paradise.
We've just launched DJ Furby. DJ Furby is kind of the newest evolution of the Furby brand.
Here at the LEGO Group, we basically have what we believe is a set for every age and passion point. Everything from our Duplo sets, which starts with ages 1.5 up, all the way to our 18+ sets for more of the adult audience. We really do have a little bit of something for everyone here.
So we partnered with Mattel. We agreed with them to do some licensing work in 2023, and we're starting to see the fruits of that with Play-Doh Barbie, which is a new line of figures we can do. We've got tons of activity tables here for kids to interact with.
So I came up with the idea for Wiglets when I was in college. I was studying mechanical engineering. I decided to take a leap of faith, leave school, go all in on this, and it's been a great success.
Magna-Tals is amazing. We are on our 28th year, and it was invented by a teacher, so you're getting perfect STEM, creativity, building all the things that you need in a toy, in a fun form.
We have Star Wars Power Crystal Lightsaber, Baby Alive, Bubbly Tea Party. We have Nanimals, which just launched recently. We have Beyblade Drop Attack Battle Set.
All of these toys are going to be hitting Toy Stars this holiday season, basically telling people to budget in an additional 10 to 30% when you're shopping for toys this year. Sweet is genuinely like sensory overload. This is all about play, really reconnecting with your inner child, and it's just a lot of fun.
The S&P 500 and Nasdaq closed at record highs today, driven by gains in Alphabet, Tesla, and other mega caps. This comes ahead of key earning reports, and as investors bet that potential trade deals could soften the impact of Trump's global tariffs. Verizon rose after boosting its profit forecast, while Apple and Amazon also contributed to market gains. Analysts expect a 6.7% rise in S&P 500 Q2 earnings, led by big tech. Investors remain optimistic, with the S&P 500 up 8% year to date. And that's it on Business Matters today.